Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here, and today we are going back to Deathfang Valley. This is our Warhammer 8th edition escalation campaign. We are on round number 3, and we are doing a scenario. These are custom scenarios. We do one every round. We play each player in the group. There's 3 of us. If you haven't seen these before, you might want to check out the previous ones. But anyway, I'm putting a link to the actual scenario pack, all the rules that we're going to be using. That's going to be in the show notes if you want to read that thoroughly. But otherwise, on with the program. Like I said, this is round 3, and we're doing a scenario called the Wizard's Tower. So we are up to the lofty heights of 600 points for our armies. The scenario itself is a modified Watchtower scenario. So we're going to have an actual Wizard's Tower in the middle of the table. It's the terrain piece where it's a building, but if you have a wizard within 4 inches, 6 inches, something like that, they get the Lore Master ability. So they have all the spells in any of the lores that they can cast spells from. And if you have more than one spellcaster within that range, then you have to roll off to see who ransacks the library and gets the extra spells. It's played on a 4-foot by 4-foot board. There are 3 other pieces of terrain. It's also got the random game length rule. So at the end of round 3, you roll a die, and on a 6, the game ends. On the end of round 4, on a 5, the game ends, and so on and so forth. The winner is the person who is controlling the Wizard's Tower at the end of the game. If no one's controlling the Wizard's Tower, then the game is a draw. In addition, these campaigns, you accumulate what we're calling lore points. So if you have a fully painted army, that'll give you so many lore points. If you win, that'll give you so many. And if you lose, that'll give you so many as well. In addition, if every round that you start the turn in control of the Wizard's Tower, you get 1 lore point. So you can add a little extra by controlling the Wizard's Tower. Anyway, let's move on to my army list for this round. So again, we're up to 600 points. I'm using my vampire counts, as you've seen before. We have up front, that's Ethrak Crowfather. He is my level 2 necromancer with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. He is joined to the left. Those are the Doomed Hunters. That's my unit of skeletons. There's 11 of them. I've got a champion and a musician. To the right, we have the Dwellers Beyond. Those are my Crypt Ghouls with a Ghast. Top right, we have the Tomb Guardians. Those are 3 Crypt Horrors. And to the top left, we have a new addition. That's Bunny and Kindling. Those are my Fellbats. So if you're wondering why I chose these groups, again, I think I say every time I do these videos that I really want to use a unit of zombies. I'm trying to get a unit of zombies painted. It hasn't happened yet. I've been busy doing Halloween, and so this game took place on a Sunday, and the Thursday before, I'm like, what can I paint really fast to bring me up a couple of points for this scenario? And the answer was I could paint a couple of ghouls and 2 Fellbats, and adding in a couple of the stuff from that I had just lying around, an extra command model for the skeletons, that kind of thing. That brought me up to 600 points, and I feel relatively confident about bringing this group into this scenario. I think those ghouls in particular are going to be really good at holding a tower, at garrisoning a building. You may have seen another video where they did really well in basically doing a city fight. And the bats, I think, are just quality troops all around. They're really fast. They're good diverters. They can go and hunt things reasonably well. I just think they're basically upgraded direwolves. I think they do a lot of the same things that the direwolves do, just a lot better. The first game of the round will be against the Orcs and Goblins. This is Captain Jackpot's Goblin Raiders. The Orcs are actually gone from this list right now, so I guess it's just Goblins. Over on the left, that big spider thing, that is a proxy. That is my opponent's Mangler Squig. He didn't want to fork out the cash for a Mangler Squig. They're really expensive for a 65-point model. Also, the resin is not great, as I've described in one of my videos. The fine cast is not a fantastic material to have a model made out of. So he used this giant spider, which I think is completely appropriate. He's got a single troll over there on the left. He's got 30 Night Goblins with spears, nets, and 1 fanatic. He's also brought a Battle Standard Bearer, which is a fantastic addition to any Goblin horde at this point value. I used to play 500 points of Night Goblins, and I could take a War Boss and a Battle Standard Bearer, and I think, it really helps. So that guy's equipped with a great weapon. He's also got Captain Jackpot. Captain Jackpot is a common Goblin War Boss, so the Lord level guy. He's got a great weapon, and he is now equipped with the Amulet of Protection, so he has sprung for the points and got himself a 4+ ward save. He's got a unit of squigs, he's got 9 squigs and 7 herders in that unit, and your standard Goblin Wolf Chariot over there on the right. So here we see the battlefield all set up right before we start playing, and we've got fences, fences, and more fences. We rolled up 2 sets of fences, and I arranged them right in the middle of the table because he's got troops that have problems going over difficult terrain. He's got the Mango Squig, which doesn't like running into stuff. He's got the Chariot, which has problems with dangerous terrain tests. And also the Fanatics don't like crashing into things. So I just stuck him right in the middle of the table. For his part, he rolled up a mysterious wood or a forest, and he tucked that way in the upper left. He wanted that out of the way, didn't want to be dealing with that. His Night Goblins don't like fighting in forests where they don't get the rank bonus. So I got the first turn, and I decided to go first, because that just made sense to me. I want to get towards that tower there. I want to claim that as soon as I possibly can. And so all my guys kind of move up. The horrors kind of hold back a little bit. They go and defend that fence in front of them. Of course, those are hedges and various rubble. I don't actually have enough fences to represent what we rolled, but we know they're all fences. I'm going straight on to my magic phase. I'm going to start off with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. Of course, I've got Lore Master now, so that really helps. As for the spells that I actually rolled up, I don't honestly remember, and it doesn't really matter because now I'm in range of the Wizard's Tower. I'm a Lore Master, and so I'm going to get the full complement of spells, and he doesn't actually have any wizards in his force to contest any of those. So as long as my Necromancer is alive and within so many inches of that Wizard's Tower, I'm going to get all the spells. But anyway, I start with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I target that big unit of Night Goblins. It's the only unit I can see, and I go ahead and I blast 2 Night Goblins. He lets that through. But I also managed to get Van Hale's Dance Macabre, so I go ahead and make a normal move, which is enough to bring me straight into the building, so I'm going to occupy that. There's my Ghast and my Necromancer hanging out in the building on the top tower, commanding things as they should. And I also get off Invocation of Nehek, which is going to give me rerolls to hit, which is nice. Just in case those Night Goblins decide to get frisky and go and charge my ghouls, I'm going to get another shot at re-rolling those hits, probably get more poisons, and so that should really help. And so I have all these spells. I've got a bunch of spells that I've never cast before, and so I really want to cast Curse of Years. He's got that Night Goblin unit with all those characters in it. I'm just looking at trying to pick those guys off, make them die of old age. And of course, it's a giant unit, so he's likely to lose a bunch of guys. So I go ahead and I cast Curse of Years. I'm getting all these spells off it. I'm rolling really well right now. I only kill off 2 Night Goblins, but I didn't really think real hard about this. I probably shouldn't have gone with Curse of Years, because of course I forget that he doesn't have a magic user, so he's going to have all the magic dice in his next turn to dispel this, and it's probably going to go away, and I would have been better off doing almost anything else. But I was just too excited. I wanted to make a bunch of goblins grow old, so that's what I did. So it's Orc and Goblin turn. You can see the Mangler Squig just uses its random movement and lurches forward up there in the middle. The rest of his guys kind of tuck forward a bit. The big problem is that his squigs fail animosity. No one's within range to charge, so they just kind of sit there and yell at each other and squabble and can't do anything else. As his Night Goblins advance in the center there, they are going to come within 8 inches of the ghouls in the tower, and since if the Night Goblin Fanatic goes and hits the tower, it's just going to kill itself without damaging my ghouls, and since my guys are really far away and his guys are really up close, he just goes and sends the Fanatic straight backwards, and it rolls really far and goes straight off the table, so that's the end of that guy. He does manage to dispel Curse of Years in his magic phase, which is too bad. So it's my turn. I don't declare any charges, but the first thing I'm going to do is I really don't like that Mangler Squig coming up looking to eat all my guys, so I'm going to sacrifice the Fellbats. The Fellbats are going to swoop over my own troops, and they're going to land right on the Mangler Squig. There's special rules for the Mangler Squig. You don't actually charge it. You can only just move on to it. You take a whole ton of hits, but the Mangler Squig does die at the end. So these Vampire Bats go and latch on to the thing. They drain it of blood, but of course they just get smashed to a pulp in the process. So Mangler Squig's gone. Fellbats are gone. I think that's a pretty good trade as far as my part goes. But we've cleared out the center of the board a bit. So in my remaining moves, I'm going to truck the skeletons and the crypt horrors forward a little bit. I don't really want to take a big combo charge from any of those things. I'm okay with like 1 or 2 things charging in, but I certainly don't want, like, say, the Chariot and the Night Goblins or something like that. So it's a pretty cautious advance. I've got the magical superiority going right now. I'm going to see where that leads me, but I don't really want to hang back or hide, so I'm going to move up a little bit and see what happens next. I fire off the ruby ring first, of course, because I'm not going to miscast on that and blow myself up and lose all my other spells. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that off, or he's going to let it go. I'm going to target the troll, and I'm going to blow him up in one go. So that was really nice. So the troll is gone, but he does manage to pass his panic test because of that BSB. Next thing I'm going to do is another spell that I have never done before. I'm going to Raise Dead. So I don't want that unit of goblins coming in and tearing up my ghouls right away. So I'm going to raise a unit of zombies right in front of them and push them somewhere I don't want to go. Now, I do make a mistake with this spell. I'm supposed to raise them in a unit 5 wide at least. I don't think it's really going to matter. I think I can still position them exactly where I want to so they don't get charged by the chariot, but still the night goblins, if they want to charge anything, they have to charge them. And if they choose to overrun, then they'd have to go off to the left where my opponent probably doesn't want them. But anyway, so they should have been 5 wide. I don't think it makes a difference. And of course, you can see I don't have them painted. If I did have them painted, I'd probably just be using them. But they crawl their way out of the ground and just go and get in the way of those night goblins. Alright, it's my opponent's turn, and so yeah, the night goblins don't really have anything to do other than go and charge into those zombies, which they happily do. The chariot has had enough waiting around, and so it's going to go and crash over that fence or through it and straight into my skeletons, try and wipe those off the board. And the squigs slowly advance. The squigs are a good matchup for those crypt horrors. The squigs have got better initiative, they've got strength, they've got better weapon skill, they've got strength 5. So they've done a number on my crypt horrors before. My opponent is not scared advancing those guys forward. So with no magic or shooting, we're going to go straight into hand-to-hand combat. And yeah, sure enough, the night goblins kill off all my poor zombies, and they just hang out right there. And in rather spectacular fashion, the Goblin Chariot charges into my skeletons and just runs them straight over. So it just destroys them all. It rolled really well for impact hits, and the rest crumbled away. And he's going to go and he's going to overrun afterwards. The only problem is that he's still on that fence. And so he has to make another dangerous terrain test. The chariot rolls a 1, and so fails the dangerous terrain. He's going to take enough wounds to destroy the chariot outright. So that was kind of a spectacular combat round. The chariot charges in, kills all the skeletons, but it's smashing through the fence in order to do it and destroys itself in the same combat. That's just what you call a good combat, where everyone's dead and there's just a bunch of bodies littering the center of the battlefield. So it's my turn again, and I go ahead. The night goblins are sitting right there. That's my biggest threat to my wizard, who's hanging out in the tower, gaining his lore points. That's the key to the battle right there, so I don't want him threatened. So I'm going to charge the crypt horrors at the night goblins. My opponent doesn't like the odds on that one, so he actually goes and flees with the night goblins. So I try to redirect with the crypt horrors, try and send them into the squigs, and I fail. So I slowly stumble after the quickly moving night goblins as they truck off back towards his deployment area. It's my magic phase, so I'm going to try and unleash as much firepower on those squigs before they charge into the flank of my horrors and chew them up. So I'm going to start off with the Ruby Ring of Ruin. I'm going to kill off 2 squigs and a handler. I'm going to get off Gaze of Nagash, which is another one of my favorite spells, and so I'm going to blast more squigs and goblins into oblivion. I'm going to kill off another 3 squigs with that one. But that's all the spells that I'm able to get off, and he is going to pass his animosity test, and he's going to charge into the flank of those horrors. Now, he is touching that fence, that hedge fence, so some of his guys are going to have a -1 to hit, but it's not really going to make that much of a difference. The night goblins do rally. They turn around. They're ready to go fight some more. I only managed to smash 2 squigs, but in return they absolutely go to town, even with that, a couple of them have that -1, and they eat all my crypt horrors. So those guys are all gone. So that was a really good combat round for those guys. I told you that they are mean against my horrors. The good news is that I did kill enough of those guys so that they really no longer threaten the ghouls in the tower. They're not going to do the damage on their charge to make my guys crumble away. So I'm feeling a lot better about that situation. But it doesn't matter because this is the end of round 3, and wouldn't you know it, I immediately go and roll a 6 to end the game. So the game ends. I'm in control of the tower. That means that I win. I was feeling real confident about this. I just don't think that my opponent had what it would take to win a round of combat against those ghouls in the building. You know, I get to pick 10 ghouls. They're going to get all their attacks. Against night goblins, they're going to do real well. Against the squigs, they're going to take a lot of damage, but they're going to do a lot of damage in return. So I was real happy about that. If the game had continued on, I think I would have been in a really good position. First off, it would have meant that I would have been in control of that tower a little bit longer. I would have gained a lore point for every time I started a turn there. As it was, I was only there for 2 rounds, and so I only got myself 2 extra lore points. Don't get me wrong, that's still really nice. I'm happy for the win. The vampire counts have been on a bit of a roll. Yeah, I knew the vampire counts were a strong list. I think the goblins at small point values do real well as well, but I think it's starting to turn a little bit in these games. The vampire counts are starting; their troops are just starting to outperform the opponent's troops, and so they're definitely on a bit of an upswing. We'll see if that turns around in later games or rounds. But right now I'm feeling really well. Hey, that's it. I've got more rounds coming up a little bit later, but thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.